this thing is going to be completely filled with almost all of these spoilers from this entire movie. So if you have not seen Glass yet, click away. But if you don't mind it being spoiled in its entirety, watch on. Okay, so first off, when we entered this movie, we expected, you know, just like the average intros and stuff, but they had a warning for epilepsy on it. Like, it said something like, if you are epileptic or have sensitivity to light things, don't watch this movie. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then just before that, there'd been a commercial that was one of those commercials where it's just some guy in a director's chair sitting in front of a camera. And here I was expecting it to be that, a disclaimer about people with D.I.D not being cannibal murderers, but it was not. It was another commercial for something else, and I was hoping that they would redeem themselves from Split by actually having kind of a little disclaimer about mental health and maybe some resources, but that was not the case.
Maybe in the movie, when they come out on DVD.
Maybe when it's on DVD.
We can hope.
We can hope. We can hope and pray for the goodness in people's souls, but I'm not certain about this topic and this movie franchise.
I'm gonna start with something that I found cool. At the end, there was, when they rolled the credits for the system, for Kevin's system, they put everybody in his system on the cast list. And I thought that was really cool.
It's a nice touch. I like how they actually treated the alters as separate characters instead of just, like, one guy with some crazy quirks. I kind of appreciated that. Mm-hmm. So this movie actually had good things in combination with the bad things, and it's honestly pretty interesting how they were able to create a better balance than they had in Split when it came to the depiction of D.I.D, which kind of weirded me out like the whole time.
The movie was actually about superheroes, which is super awesome.
Unexpected.
Yeah, very unexpected.
Really unexpected.
And like the villain and stuff. If you haven't watched Unbreakable, you should totally do that, even though the camera angles make us spin.
I have a lot to say about the artistic camera, like, artistic filming. Being an art major, I'm kind of a snob about this, and I was tearing that movie apart when we were watching it the night before. I was like, M. Night, what the flip are you doing, man? There's a tasteful amount of things that you should do, but that was over the top.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't clear in Split that it was a superhero movie, and, like, they should have made it somewhat clear that it was a sequel to Unbreakable, so that way people would have something to go off of.
Yeah, instead of just that tiny little snippet at the end where it was just the guy from Unbreakable, and a lot of people just leave right as the credits start, and that was one of those things where it's like the movie ends and then the credits and then it's a little clip. I think M. Night was trying to do what Marvel does. He was really trying to do what Marvel does.
Yeah.
Should he have?
I mean, I personally enjoyed parts of the movie, like the intricacy and stuff, so I liked it.
It would have been better if Split had come out closer to when Unbreakable did, because that was like
2000.
That was 17 years apart. That's a little far for a sequel.
Yeah.
A little bit far for a sequel.
Just a little.
Just a touch. If he'd just done it like a couple months before, it would have been great.
And then you can be done.
And then one thing that really kind of surprised me was the way they interpreted therapy in this. I mean, the whole time, it wasn't actually therapy that the three were going through. So, the guy from Unbreakable, what was his name, David, Kevin, and Mr. Glass were all three in this little kind of a psych ward thing where the lady was trying to get them to get rid of a delusion that they were superheroes. But the whole time, she was part of a secret organization meant to destroy superheroes and kind of make them think that they're delusional. So she gave them 3 days to recover and get their treatment, which is kind of unreasonable because there's no way that you could be completely cured of something mental within 3 days, according to their standards. And those lights that they used was my least favorite part of the entire frickin' movie. The way that they really abused that and kind of forced Kevin to switch a lot was total BS, and I'm honestly really glad that Kai was the one watching that movie because he's not triggered by most of the things that we are, and flashing lights like that are literally my worst freaking trigger. And I thought that the epilepsy warning was something like, you know, when trains go by in stations and it kind of, the windows look like they're flashing. I thought it was something like that. Not complete whiting out the entire screen, flashing, and forcing someone to switch, and total doctor malpractice. There was a nurse that even, like, intentionally was, like, flicking the lights on and off to make Kevin switch, like, 1,000,000 times. And that was rude.
Mm-hmm.
That was, like, the worst thing you could do to someone with D.I.D, and that was awful.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that they threw that in there, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they captured him.
Mm-hmm. They captured him by literally, like, forcing him to switch into somebody who was not the Beast. And those hypnotic lights, those aren't even a thing.
No.
Those don't even exist. And I was like, I hope they don't have those. And I was like, wait, those don't exist. Thank God.
Alters aren't really cannibals. Like... I don't know what more to say about that than that. Just that that's not really who we are.
Yeah. Figured we throw that in. Cannibalism is not a thing with D.I.D.
Although some people would like to rip people's faces off.
But we don't. We don't actually rip off faces and consume teenage girls.
Yeah, no, they don't rip off faces, and as far as I know, even if they did, they wouldn't eat those faces.
Yeah, no. I don't think people would taste very good.
So Casey actually, if you've seen Split, you know she was one of the girls that Kevin had kidnapped, well, his alters. And she escaped and then went back when she found out that he was captured. And that's not really something that trauma victims do. Like, do you really want to go and force yourself to be around that person?
Who almost ate you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who took a chunk out of your leg?
At the same time, though, like, she went back because she knew it wasn't just the Beast. They weren't all bad. Mm-hmm. So, like, her faith in the system was kind of nice.
Yeah, I appreciated that, how she could look past one alter and see that them as a collective was not actually a completely bad person. And it's also interesting because Anya Taylor-Joy is actually in another movie about D.I.D. called Marrowbone, which I actually would certainly recommend. Ironically, it has a lot better depictions of D.I.D., although of course it's Hollywooded up to the max and not ideal, but it's definitely better than Split. We'll post a review of that eventually, so stay tuned if you'd like to see that. And one thing that I also liked about this movie was at the end, when they were kind of having that showdown thing, it was revealed that Mr. Glass was behind that train crash, and Kevin's dad was actually on that train, and therefore Kevin's dad was killed and was not able to get Kevin that medical attention. And it was shown that his dad was actually carrying a pamphlet about D.I.D., so he was going somewhere to get help for Kevin because his mom was, like, really abusive. And Mr. Glass had admitted to stopping that train and admitting that he was the cause behind Kevin developing D.I.D. and developing the Beast as an alter, because he indirectly forced Kevin to stay with his abusive mother longer, and the Beast was pretty pissed off about that.
Oh, yeah.
He, like, pushed Mr. Glass in the chest, and that's, like, a thing because he had brittle bone syndrome, and he totally, like, shattered his ribcage and killed him. And as a very vengeful alter, I can appreciate that, and the kind of move that was like a don't mess with trauma survivors thing. Don't be gloating about giving someone D.I.D. because that is not an okay thing to give someone, regardless of how many superpowers it gives you. Mm-hmm. It's not cool. And I like how they added that in there. And they also added that the Beast was a protector, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
honestly.
Because the Beast said that he was there to protect Kevin, and he couldn't trust Mr. Glass to protect Kevin. And that's when he, like, shoved him.
Yeah. So that was a little good thing in there. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about the movie as a whole. I feel very conflicted because the depiction was obviously wrong. We obviously aren't, like, killer superheroes, even though that would be kind of killer. But yeah, it had good bits in there too, which is actually, I think that's what we were literally getting to onto our notes. Some of the good things in this movie.
I like the different depictions of D.I.D. that they did. They actually showed so many different alters in this one, And although we hated the flashing light part, it definitely showed, like, the different personality of each individual, and their reaction to being in such a facility. Some of them were pretty scared.
Yeah. The acting was pretty good with that. Like, James McAvoy kind of crushed it. Like, he did a really good job for that, and I feel like if he was given, like, a different character with D.I.D. in a different scenario, that could be a freaking success. I swear to God, if it was, like, that system he was playing in, like, a slice of life movie, it would have been amazing, but it had to be superheroes that eat people. Yeah. So, minus the Beast, altogether it wasn't a bad depiction of D.I.D., but if it wasn't all M. Nighted up, it would have been great.
Yeah, I really liked at the very end of the movie, where they were all fighting for the light, the front. Everybody was pretty scared, and then Kevin decided that he was going to take control and take the light for the last bit of his life, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was. They really did a lot of showing of how human contact can be grounding, and, like, with Casey being, like, the grounding person. Though there were some funny moments with that. Like, I'll get to those in a second, but using, like, physical contact from her, like, she would hug Kevin and he would, like, find the willpower to come back out to the front. And she used that in good situations, like how it should be properly used, and I like how they depicted grounding like that. And a funny part was, like, when she was holding Kevin's hand and the younger alter switched out, he was like, "Oh my god, do you like Kevin now?" That was so funny. That was honestly, like, real things that you would see every day with someone with D.I.D. Like, that's exactly something that would happen between us.
For sure.
It was funny. And also with the roller skates. The Beast was going to go eat some people, and the kid was roller skating around, and he was all like, "Oh, I should probably go take these out. I don't want the Beast to take the light and be wearing roller skates." That was great.
It was. And, yeah. That would be something the kids would do to Ashley.
Just leave her out in roller skates.
Yeah. They would be like, "Aunt Ashley, Aunt Ashley!" You know, Jackson and his little shenanigans. And,
chaotic child.
Oh my god, Richard and him tripping Ashley. That was hilarious. But they would do something like that. They'd be like, "Ashley, Ashley!" And she'd come out to roller skates or riding a bike and not really... She doesn't know how to ride a bike.
No way.
Yeah, she's one of the ones that just doesn't know how to ride a bike.
That's so weird.
But yeah, so that's literally something that would happen.
Yeah, so altogether, I don't know what I would rate this movie out of 10.
I give it a 5 out of 10.
I have to agree.
Because it has some really bad things, but also the plot line makes a lot more sense than just what they did with Split.
Yeah, Split was just random. It was so out of place and random, but the way that he did it, it was like Unbreakable, 20 years. Split, then Glass 2 years after that.
Basically.
Why?
Probably thought Unbreakable was more of an art piece. Like I said, it was like an exhibition of his camera work.
If I was in a film class and critiqued that, I would tear that apart. Fancy film shots should be done tastefully, not throwing it all over the place like glitter at a pride parade.
So if some of this didn't make sense because we didn't explain all the plot points, we are going to do a part 2 when the movie comes out on DVD. So we can actually write down every individual thing. In a theater, it's a little hard to write anything down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
oh, that reminds me of something. I can now understand why people are reluctant to think about how the public will accept depictions of D.I.D. like this. Because we were sitting in the theater, and 2 seats down, there was this guy and presumably his girlfriend or something, and he kept leaning over to her in the movie. He was like, "It's split personality. He's got split personality." And I was sitting there like, you are so far behind in the terminology. You're basically living in the 60s.
Which is kind of funny because they explain some of the terminology in the movie.
In the movie. And even Casey was like telling the police like, don't shoot, he has D.I.D, he has D.I.D. She was saying that specifically.
Yeah.
And the turd next to us is like, it's split personality. Like, I apologize, honestly, for thinking that the public would think better. Like, that's a small part of the public would think better about this movie, because the vast majority is represented by that guy who's sitting next to us. And, oh my god.
Yeah.
Altogether, I'd give it a real mixed review. And we will be going more in depth into this in the future. We are going to be completely dissecting this movie, just like we did with Split. And yeah, stay tuned for that. It's probably not going to be out for a while because it's not going to come out in more accessible forms until later. Then we might just pirate it.
If you haven't, if you haven't watched our Split review, we will leave it down in the comments for you, so that way you can get up to date.
Or maybe if I figure out how to do that thing on the top. We'll see. It'll be accessible either way. Check the description, or if it pops up at the top of this video, you know what to do.
Alright, everybody have a good day, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. It's just liberating it up.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you all in the next video. Today's guest star is a round baby.